In this video, we're just going to focus on learning objective B and multiply rational expressions that are made up of monomials. Example 3 down here is made up of monomials. And what we're going to do is multiply these two fractions together. Remember, when you multiply fractions together, you just multiply straight across. So we can actually rewrite this as 4x squared over 3x. And we just times it by the 9x, and it's 8x to the 5th. So this looks like a problem that we did back in chapter 6. Remember, all you do is we can combine everything here on the top. Just crunch it together using property of exponents. So I'm going to do 4 times 9 is 36, and x squared with another x would be x to the 3rd. On the bottom, I can do 3 times 8 is 24. And I can bring an x to the 1st and an x to the 5th together to get x to the 6th. Now remember, this is really just a chapter 6 question. To simplify it, I can only have one x. I have two x's. So what you do in this case is you would subtract. If you subtract, what you'd have would be 3 minus 6, or you'd have x to the negative 3rd. And then we'd still have the 36 over 24. We cannot have negative exponents, so what you would do now in this case is you would bring this down. So we'd have 36 and then 24, x to the 3rd. Now, you may have just did a shortcut back in this step. You might have just said, I'm going to cross off 3 on the top, cross off 3 in the bottom, and that would actually leave you with this scenario here. The last thing you need to do is to check and see, can you pull out any common numbers from 36 and 24. The largest multiple they have in common would be a 12. So you can actually pull a 12 out of both. 36 divided by 12 would be 3. 24 divided by 12 is 2. And then x cubed is on the bottom. Now, be careful. Sometimes with 36 and 24, it's hard to see the 12. You may have said maybe you can pull 4 out of both of those. So let me show you what would happen. If you pulled 4 out, 36 divided by 4 is 9. 24 divided by 4 would be 6. All you'd have to do is further simplify 9 over 6 by pulling a 3 out of it, which would give you 9 divided by 3 is 3, 6 divided by 3 is 2, which would end up giving you this numerical fraction we have here. Now, if you're struggling with how to simplify this fraction here of 36 over 24 and you can't naturally see it goes to 3 over 2, let me show you a good way to work around that. What you can do is actually restate this as factors. So 36 is 6 times 6, 24 is 6 times 4. So if I restate that and you have 6 times 6 and then 6 times 4, look and see if there's anything you can cross off on the top and on the bottom. You could come in and cross off a 6 and a 6. So then you're left with 6 and a 4. Now, can you go any further on that? I actually could. Be careful here. 6 is also 3 times 2, and then 4 is 2 times 2. So if you do that, what you could do is you're going to notice there's a pair of 2's. So if you cross off those pair of 2's, what you're going to be left with is the 3 over 2, and that's another way to actually simplify larger fractions into smaller ones. Now here's another one. Simplify these two monomials. Again, this top is considered a monomial because it's one group of just a 3x. This is a monomial. This is, and this is. All you do for multiplication is put them all together on the top. So 3x times 7x over 14 times 6x cubed. Now, one of the things you can do, if you'd like, you can start simplifying the numbers up front. Maybe you want to say simplify between 3 and 6. What you could do is take a 3 out. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. You could also notice 7 and 14. So you could pull out a 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. So now what we're going to have on the top, in terms of numbers, is 1 times 1. It's 1. I have an x and an x, which gives me an x squared. On the bottom, I'd have 2 times 2, which is 4, and an x cubed. Now be careful, what I'm going to do is cross off the x squared on the top. That gets rid of 2 x's. Down here I'm going to get rid of 2, so I'm down to 1. So what I'm left with is 1 on the top, a 4, and an x to the first power, or just a single x. And that's considered simplified. Again, just like we learned in Chapter 6. Let me show you how to relook at this one too in terms of the numbers if you don't understand again how to simplify the fractions. I'm just going to rewrite just the number portion. So we're going to have a 3 and a 7 on the top and a 14 and a 6. What you can do is naturally none of these cross off, but you can restate factors for these bottom two. 14 is the same as 7 times 2, so I'm going to cross that out. 6 is the same as 3 times 2, so I'm going to cross that out. Now is there anything in here on the top and bottom you can cross out? There is. You can cross off this 3 and this 3, this 7 and this 7. Now there is something left up here. It's a 1, so don't forget that. That's where the 1 comes from. And on the bottom we have 2 times 2 is left over, so that's where the 4 comes from. So if you struggle with simplifying the number parts of these rational expressions, just restate the numbers as factors and do the crossing off method. Let's look at 2 more. Just simplify this basic rational expression. Only thing you can do to letter A is you can pull out a 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 5 divided by 15 is 3. So you're left with 3x over 1, which we normally just write as 3x. Letter C here, we can simplify the numbers. We have a 6 over 14. For sure they have a 2 in common, so I'm going to take 6 divided by 2 and get 3. 14 divided by 2 and get 7. Now there's 1x on the top and 2 on the bottom. I'm going to get rid of this 1. I'm going to have 2 here, so I'm just going to have 1 left over. So the answer is going to be a 3 on the top and a 7x. Now this slide we're going to skip because I have to tell you this. This is not considered a monomial. Let me show you the difference. This right here is one big term on the top. It's 2 pieces. It's a binomial. We have to treat that differently. This is what Chapter 9 is about. Let's look at this last slide. Number 2 is this learning objective where we have a monomial. Again, number 3 we can't do yet because this right here, 9x is a monomial, 12 is a monomial, but x plus 1 is a binomial. That's what Chapter 9 is about, and we have to take that more carefully. However, number 2 we can do. This is basic Chapter 6. The only simplification we can do is take a 4 out. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So what we're left here with is 2x. And that's how you simplify monomials.